About 20 years ago, the law school began to form an art collection. The state of Ohio has a 1% law that says that 1% of buildings that use state funds can also have a designated portion of art in their buildings, and that's how it started. And over the years, Professor Patty Falk has been the leader in making sure that we have a phenomenal art collection. I would argue probably one of the best art collections in the country. So we have three themes all throughout the building. One, of course, is the law. The other is the city of Cleveland, and the third is nature. And I invited Patty Falk to speak tonight, and she declined. But I think she deserves an ovation, so there she is. Raise your hand so we can thank Patty Falk. In addition to what's that? You want to say? Now you do want to talk, right? Okay. Okay, I heard you say you had lots of help. I got that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Patty did not want to give a talk, but she's getting the mic anyway. No, there must be other people you want to thank. Go ahead.
Well, Louise Mooney,
Right.
Louise Dempsey, Vicki Plata, and a whole host. Pam Diker-Middaugh is also on the committee, so it was a group effort.
Okay. Also, I want to thank some other staff who were here today. Lauren Collins, Professor Lauren Collins, the director of our law library. Elaine Turman, our communications and marketing director. Jill Natron, our facilities and building event coordinator. And there are other people involved too, but were those the main people, would you say? I got everybody? I mean, we have Amy Miller, we have Holly, but I don't want to get into everybody here, but I just did. Now I want to introduce to you our two guests. We could not be luckier to have these two people here tonight and to feature their works. I'm going to begin with Jenny Jones, because Jenny is regarded by many as Cleveland's premier photographer, maybe even America's premier photographer, but absolutely Ohio's premier photographer. Each of you have a program, but I'll just tell you a few things about Jenny. She's been doing this for more than 3 decades. She has published multiple books, the most recent being Cleveland Inside Outside, a personal photographic journey, 1981 to 2011. In 2010, listen to this, Jenny Jones donated 22,000 images to the Michael Schwartz Library here at Cleveland State University, representing 30 years of her work. That is extraordinary. Jenny's work is featured in the area that connects our atrium and our library. When you see it, you'll know how exquisite it is. Not only that, but we have work that's been hanging on our walls for a number of years that Jenny also did that you'll also see. So as you leave the Learning Commons tonight and you walk out into the atrium, stop and look at these phenomenal pictures. One of them is opening day of the Indians, April 4th, 1998. And if you take a magnifying glass, you will see me, because I was there. And Judy, you'll see Judy and me there. And it'd be quite a magnifying glass. I've been trying actually for the last several days to see myself. I know I'm there, and I will find it, but I will not circle it. Okay. Also, we have here today Judy Rawson. Now, Judy and I have been friends for a long time. We went to law school together. We were in the same study group. One of us did well in law school, Judy Rawson, and I was on her coattails. And we also have one of our classmates here today, Ann Rowland from the U.S. Attorney's Office as well. Judy is known for many things, but she served in Shaker government for more than 20 years and 2 terms as the mayor of the city that I grew up in, Shaker Heights. She is an extraordinary public servant. She is somebody who took up photography after she retired from public service and did what she did with photography is what she's done with her whole life. She's delved into it with a passion. I saw her do that in law school. I saw her do it in public service, and she's done it now with photography, and she excels in that too. And Judy said to me, look, I would love to do this, but if you really want people to come, we have to get Jenny Jones. And so Jenny was nice enough, primarily because of her friendship with Judy, to agree to do this tonight. So we thank both of you. And without further ado, I'm going to we're going to listen to both of them talk a little bit about their work that you can see here in the Learning Commons and throughout the law school. And we're going to start with Jenny. Jenny, I'm going to give you the mic. You don't have to stand.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Lee and I want to thank Judy. Judy came to see me and said, should we do this? And I was thrilled. And I love CSU and I love Cleveland. I moved here from 1978 from Colorado. That's a pretty good place. And I grew up in Milwaukee and I've lived in Chicago, Boston, Detroit, and here. And you can't get me away from Cleveland. It doesn't get any better than this town. And I fell in love with it, and I started photographing it by a fluke, which I won't bore you with, but a book dealer told me, if you want to sell books, forget an art book. They're 60% off in 6 months on the table. He said, Cleveland's your subject matter. And so I have happily climbed every building. I'm so jealous of drones, I can't even begin to tell you. Because I have been on every building around here, and I really want to get a drone. And but I worked in film primarily, and I really love this city. I've explored it. I know it. I know the people. And I didn't start out as a photographer. I never took it until I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art for a night class, and I went to the Cleveland Photographic Society, and I started at 52. And I had to learn the technical side, but I had started drawing at 3 and in art school at 11. So I've always been in the arts. I have a passion for the arts. And the material I gave to the university is really historic. They're not all great photographs, but I photographed 30 very important years in Cleveland's history. And my daughter didn't need it in her attic, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't want to throw it out. So it is a history of the city. And you're all very fortunate to be here and to be in this school. It's a very special place, and it's the heart of Cleveland. It has made downtown. CSU is the single most important ingredient in the downtown area, and I firmly believe that. So it is a great privilege to be here, and Judy is fabulous. We've known each other for a long time, and I was greatly honored to be here, so thank you very much, Judy.
So actually, I first want to thank Dean Fisher for suggesting this show, but then I want to thank Jenny, who has inspired me and an awful lot of other photographers around this city. And she gave, is this on? Can you all hear me? She gave me crucial advice. She said, everybody photographs the countryside. Don't do nature. Photograph cities. So she gave me the idea for this theme, the theme for this show. My husband Bob was on the board of Cleveland State, and he and I love Cleveland State and love Cleveland. And I'm from Boston and St. Louis and Washington, D.C. This is the most inviting, welcoming, interesting city I've lived in. So to you students, I hope you'll wander around, look at some of these photographs, pick a place that interests you, then go out with your free time and explore it and get to know Cleveland, because if you do that and absorb the history and the character of this city, I feel confident that you'll find a way to stay in Cleveland and help build this city beyond what it is now. So as mayor of Shaker Heights and now a board member, should I introduce? This is Peggy Zone Fisher, the better half of the dean. Thank you for coming, Peggy. So as mayor, and I chaired the planning commission for a lot of years while I was doing that, and now I'm on the board of Land Studio, I have gotten very interested in looking at the design of cities and admiring smart inviting urban design. And Cleveland has a lot of it. And so do a lot of the other cities around the country. And that's why they're up on this wall, to inspire us to do the same whenever we have a chance to build a building or design something. So I hope you will enjoy these beautiful old buildings, bridges, and landmarks. And I have to acknowledge that unspoiled, despite Jenny's advice, unspoiled countryside is also a wonderful thing. So the final wall, that's where my heart is, but my intellect is with cities. The final wall has unspoiled countryside, because unless we take care of the cities, this urban sprawl is just going to keep eating up the countryside, and we'll have less left. So I think my message from this show is pause. Enjoy the gritty moments in cities and the spectacular design of places that work well. And then cherish and preserve the places that are particularly important to you. And finally, rigorously protect all the wild places that are left in America and around this world. Thank you so much for coming.
Before we adjourn, I'd just like to ask each of you to talk about a few of your favorite photos that people will see here over the next several months. And Jenny, if you would talk about some of the ones that are downstairs, they're really phenomenal. I'll start with you.
Well, I worked with a 4x5 and a 2 1/4 and film, of course, 35. And I picked 2 pictures for this exhibition. One is from the bridge when it was closed. I think it's the last bridge over the river. And they had it closed for reconstruction. And I talked to the police, and I talked my way on one night when there was no traffic, and I took that picture, and it's a great picture from the west side. The picture of the opening game, I did all the construction photography for Gateway, and they wanted a final picture, and they wanted the place to play, the baseball field. They wanted the downtown buildings, and they wanted the crowd, and they wanted the game, and they kept saying what they wanted. So I had a team of 5. I rented a 380-degree camera out of New York, and you were in it twice if you stood there and didn't move. And the picture you see there's only 3 prints. One, I think, I know one is in the Indians' offices. And at any rate, this woman was eating popcorn, and the camera goes around, and every time it got right next to her, she's going, oh. So I had to cut her out. And the last picture is one of my favorites. I was photographing for Alex Macheski, which shows you how fast the world has changed. In 1989, I photographed the 18th Street presses, and there were 250 pressmen, and they loaded the inks into the presses by hand. And that picture is the cans, and I'll explain it in a minute. Fast forward, they built one of the most forward-thinking facilities at Tiedemann Road. It takes 37 minutes for a roll of paper to become a newspaper and come out the other end and be folded and ready to go. They went from 250 pressmen to 8, no dark room, and the inks that were used in the past had formaldehyde, and now they are soybean based, and they come out of tanks and they just go through it flawlessly. Well, that old filing cabinet thing was sitting in the press rooms. It was mercury vapor light. I knew it would go green, so I did what all the guys do, a really sexy thing. I went and got a hose master, which the guys use to have rim light on motorcycles and cars and all that good stuff. And I'd never used it, and it was a big light in a box with a hose, and I was in black. My partner kept a card over the lens, and I individually lit what I wanted to be prominent. And I was in the picture the whole time, but because I was moving, you couldn't see me. And so it was done with the hose master, and it happens to be one of my very favorite pictures. And I thought it would be interesting. There's an exclamation next to it, but I thought in lieu of today, when we're moving away from print, period, the plain dealer is struggling, they all are, I thought it was interesting to have that in the collection here. But they also have some very large black and whites, and the Hope Memorial Bridge, to me, are the symbol of the city, and I think you have a couple of big ones here. So that's the explanation.
Yes.
Yeah, are they really?
3 beautiful photographs outside the dean's office. Jenny
Yeah.
Jones.
4?
Four. I'm sorry. 4.
Anyway, they were done with a 4x5 camera, and I did it on a Sunday morning. I used my car to stop anybody that was going to hit me because I was standing in the street. I had a little Chevrolet car that was tiny, and I did all of the east side in the morning and all of the west side in the afternoon, and had to stand out in the middle of the street to do it. And but they were really sharp because they were done with a fabulous Cinar 4x5 camera. But to me, they are the symbol of this city, the 4 modes of transportation. So thank you very much.
Well, that's sort of a hard story to follow. I am technically very basic. And the pictures I'd like you to pay attention to, I just tried to take one off the wall, but it won't come, so you're going to have to pay for it if you want it. It is a shot of the ArcelorMittal plant in the flats, and you have to go the back way to ever find this place. And it's got strips of plastic hanging down. It looks like a car wash. And there are little trains running all across the facility. And we happened to be there on a day when the smoke coming out of the plant matched the mottled clouds. And I think it is a wonderful expression about what Cleveland is and the character of Cleveland. So I would suggest that one. And then my favorite, oh, it's not here. Well, this picture of the little boy playing, that is in Berlin on the wall. And how such a horrible place has been transformed by graffiti into an innocent setting for this child's play, I think is just wonderful. And the other one I think I would mention is the one of Brooklyn Bridge, which you'll find. Oh no, let me instead talk about Machu Picchu. I just went there this spring, and it is the picture hanging down in the atrium with all of Jenny's pictures, and it is a magical place because this city in the Andes straddles the mountaintops and fits perfectly into the surrounding mountains. And I asked the guide, what are the elements you need to capture the spirit of this place? He said you need rain, you need sun, you need the little thumb, the little Picchu, and you need the tree, which is off to the right. And I got all 4 during a dawn rainstorm. So I'm very proud of that picture. Thank you, Lee. Good luck getting it back.
Her picture is really magnificent. I think it's one of her best. But I want to comment on Cleveland because this is the end of the Industrial Revolution, which started before my lifetime and has ended in my lifetime. And one of the draws that I have of these large, massive buildings and the bridges that were massive things, this is what got us through the First and Second World War. This started in England in the Industrial Revolution. Nothing is going to be giant anymore. Power does not have to be big. And our whole landscape and our whole world is changing. And I think Judy and I are drawn to these beasts because they are an echo of the past. And interesting enough, I have one of a bridge with plants eating into it. And in time, it will go back to the land it came from, the iron ores. So think about that when you're in the flats.
Just a few more things. That is, you should know that both Jenny and Judy have donated some of their work to the law school. Jenny actually donated some years ago and is doing it again. And Judy is also donating some. Anything that says NSF, not for sale, means she's already donated it to the law school. But She does have some for sale, and she's been very nice to have some of the proceeds of her sale go to the law school. So I would encourage you to buy her art, even if it wasn't going to law school, but even more so because some of it will. You should also know the obvious, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning. We are right now in the Robert H. and Judy Rawson Learning Commons. One of the few law schools in the country that has this kind of innovative learning space that our students absolutely love, particularly our first year class, because this is where they came seeing it for the very first time, and it's populated all the time, but especially with our first year students, which happen to be the largest class we've had in the last 4 years. So Jenny, thank you. Judy, thank you. This exhibit will be up through the end of the year, so you've got plenty of time to come back, look at it more carefully. And Ned, you could even buy some tonight if you'd like, Ned Grossman. So everybody, thank you for being here. And Sharon, oh, Trevor, wait a second. Please,
Yeah,
do.
I
You
want
get
you
to
to
say anything you
talk.
want. Go. Yes. I mean, anything you want.
I want to make a comment to be inspirational, particularly for the women, but for all of the people here. Jenny started her business at a young age of 55, and that's more than 25 years ago. And she has been cash flow positive every year since. And that, I mean that for, there is a challenge out there. We're talking photography, that everyone in this room has a future challenge if you decide to do it. And being in photography, there's been so many technology changes. I mean, everyone now thinks they're a photographer, including me. And it reminds me of a story, comment, that the past president of Cleveland State University, Mike Schwartz, and I was on the board at that time, had a statement. The Stone Age didn't end because they ran out of stone. Think about that. It's not going to end because they run out of silicon. Thank
That's
you.
good. I love that. That's great. Did you know that I've just decided Trevor will be the commencement speaker, and Jenny will be our new budget director, so we need to get cash flow positive here at the law school. So thank you all for being here tonight. Enjoy.